Yeah, so my name's Monica. I live in Aberdeen in Scotland with my 7-year-old son.
Monica, talk to us a little bit about your life before you found Tribe Sober. What was going on?
It was a bit like Groundhog Day. I found I was waking up doing the same thing. There wasn't too much excitement in my life. And I was just about to turn 40. And I just thought, wow, what does the rest of my life look like? So there was a realization that things should change. And that would be to take alcohol out.
Yeah.
That was the key.
Such a small step can make such a big difference, isn't it, really?
Then I had my son, Nate, and he was just a few months old. And I got caught up into the mum wine culture where it was walks to the park, drinks in the park. After a day of parenting, need a drink to calm down, or bath time, stressful, so have a drink. And that just made it so normal. So I felt I was just being like a normal mum.
Monica, we talk about 11 years at Tribe Sober, don't we? That the average person will take 11 years before they reach out and get some help with their drinking. Do you think you had it in your mind for that long?
Yes, I had a issue in my teenage years. I knew that there was a problem, and into my early 20s, I tried to stop a few times in my 20s, but I just kept going back. 20s were a difficult age to try and find friends that didn't drink.
Did you try anything to help you stop before we met you? Did you go to AA?
I did go to AA. I went when I was in my 20s. I went to another facility that was more for a range of psychological help. I saw a psychologist, psychiatrist. None of them ever asked much about my drinking, though. So I often used to go there while under the influence. So that just didn't help me at all. There was a talk about going to rehab once in my 20s, and I just thought, that's not for me. It's not going to happen. I don't need rehab. I can do this on my own. And I did. I managed 6 months by myself. And then it just slowly crept back in.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, would you say that you were white knuckling for that 6 months?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you felt deprived, I'm sure, didn't you?
Deprived, and I was miserable. I was watching all my friends going out and having fun, and then friends just stopped inviting me to do things with them because I wasn't taking part. So it became very lonely, and I think that's when I decided, bugger this, I'm going to go back to it because it's just boring without it.
Yeah, that happens to so many of us, isn't it? Now, your first year with Tribe Sober wasn't straightforward. I know you tried hard, but you did fall off the bus rather a lot. Tell us about that.
I did. I had 84 day ones in my first year. I would go for about 3, 4 days and then I'd fall off again. And then I'd get to the double digits, which was always, I thought, oh, this is it. But it just never stuck. So it took me about 6 months to get to my first 30 days in. But each time I did, I got longer streaks. I'd learn every time I did fall off, learn my triggers. It was definitely more of a journey for that first year than just getting sober.
I think that's so encouraging for people to hear. Very few people get it right from day one, but the key is to keep trying, isn't it? And keep trying. And what made you keep trying?
I just knew that going back to looking at my life for the next 40 years, I thought if I didn't do this, the next 40 years would be like, say, going back to Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And my number one reason was, and still is, my son. I just wanted to be the sober mum. I was tired of being the drinking mum. And I'm a single parent, so I needed it to be on my A game.
You came across people at Tribe Sober, obviously, who'd had several months, several years of sobriety. Were you inspired by those people? Did you look at them and think, if she can do that, why can't I?
Yes.
Mm.
And that was the nice thing about the groups with Tribe Sober is there was always someone on a different stage of their journey that would be able to chip in and offer advice. And I found mentors within the group.
And those of us that are sober, we didn't all look miserable, did we?
No, it looked like you're having the time of your life. At that time, it seemed a bit heavy. But once I started getting those days in and feeling better, and life just got more exciting and there was something to look forward to.
Even though your sober stretches were quite short at the beginning, when you got to something like 30 days, I'm sure you were feeling real benefits by then, weren't you? We think, I don't want to lose these benefits, but I want to carry on keeping better and looking better and feeling better. Can you identify anything that finally made your sobriety stick? Any tips that you could give someone at the very beginning?
One thing that did help me was I found a project. Finding the project was a big thing. And for me, that was planning my move to the UK. There was a lot to be done for that.
Yeah, that was a huge project. I remember it well. Remember the visa challenges, but you overcame all those. Do you think you would have been able to make such a huge change in your life if you'd still been drinking?
No, I don't think I would have been able to make such a change. I just would have been stuck in the same thought pattern that I was in and wasting money. I needed money to get that visa and for the move. So if I had stayed drinking, it just wouldn't have occurred to me to make the change.
Yeah, exactly. And we come across lots of people, don't we, in our community that have made big changes, either relationships or jobs or countries, because you get clarity of thought and you get more bandwidth, don't you? Because if your brain is always thinking, oh, I drank too much last night, how much am I going to drink tonight? I'm already over my allowance for the week. If you've got all that rubbish going on in your head, you can't think about the important things in life, can you? Am I happy here? And do I need to make some changes?
It's very time consuming. Planning your drinking, waking up and what am I going to drink? What time am I going to drink?
It's madness. It really is a trap. So how long have you been sober now?
In April, it'll be 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? So when you look back, what are the biggest changes that you've experienced since you quit? The biggest benefits?
The peace that I found. Life isn't chaotic anymore. I always think of my drinking days as chaos because there was thoughts all over the place. The blackouts that I was getting, I would have to really think hard to remember things. And I was exhausted from all the drinking and the thinking about drinking, and just drinking in general was exhausting. So the peace that I find, it's calm. Even now when there's a big challenge, I find that I'm able to handle things calmly.
Yeah.
And I always say to myself, when I do find myself in a challenging situation, I think, I got sober, I can do this.
Yeah. I'm the same, actually, because we've got this feeling of if I did that really hard thing, surely we can do everything. And I still use sober tools. I often play the movie forward. The other thing I do is, of course, our favorite about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I find those two particular tools invaluable in life. So was there anything that surprised you about living alcohol-free? We know, don't we, when we quit that we're going to feel better, look better, have more time, have more money. Any surprises?
What surprised me was how many opportunities come your way when your mind is open and then you got clarity. You see so many things that was missing.
Yeah.
and my relationships with people are better. Don't really have many drinking friends now, and the friendships that I have, they're good friendships.
As our ambassador Lucy says, you don't have a drinking problem, you have an opportunity. And I love that reframe. And there you are, an example of the opportunities that we're open to. Because I guess these opportunities would have come to us when we were drinking, but we'd probably just think, oh, maybe I should do that. And then the next day you'd forget all about it. But we tend to carry things through, don't we, when we're alcohol free? And I've known you for your entire journey. And to me, you seem like a completely different person. Do you think you've changed a lot?
Yes, I do think so. I've become a nicer person.
Personally think you've become a lot more confident, because in the beginning we'd have you at a Zoom meeting and we'd say, how are you doing, Monica? And you'd go, fine. We couldn't get much out of you.
Yes,
And now,
definitely a more confident person,
yeah.
more confidence and speaking more. I still struggle with speaking, but doing the Zoom cafes and speaking to members daily, like this support that they showed made me come out of my shell.
So you've been working as 𝐼𝐸 community manager for almost a year now. Tell us what you enjoy most about the work.
I enjoy meeting new people and helping them with their journeys, because obviously, having been there before, I know how tricky it can be and how difficult and all the emotions that go with it. So what I enjoy about it most is being there to support people in the early stages, being there to support them when they feel wobbly, and the Zoom is connecting with people and learning from everyone. Even though I'm 5 years sober, I still learn from the newbies.
Exactly. Now, there's always some gem coming out of the Zoom meeting, isn't there? We've got 5 meetings now for people to pick and choose from, haven't we?
Yeah.
That's wonderful that we've got our ambassadors that will facilitate those as well. What do you think the most common challenge is for newish members?
I think overcoming the shame and guilt
Yeah.
of drinking. A lot of people don't want to admit that they have a problem. They don't want to be labeled. And I think that's where, with the tribe, we don't do the labels. So there's comfort.
Yeah. I think it's such a relief, isn't it, when you get into a community, just realizing that you're not the only one. And I always say to people, the biggest step you can make is just reaching out and joining a community, because after that, the warmth and the encouragement of the community will get you started and keep you going. But that first step is difficult because there's so much stigma and shame. And my personal theory is that big alcohol does that because they want to keep it shameful and make us think that someone with a drinking problem is like that homeless man in the park. So we all look at him and think, I'm not that bad, I'm not like him. And then you have another drink. So I think it's great that we can sweep the shame away, because there shouldn't be personal shame in this. All we've done is get addicted to an addictive substance. And now we've taken a really courageous step by stepping away from that. Where do you think people get stuck in their journey?
I think when they decide that they've done a few days or a few weeks or months, and then they think, oh, I've got this under control, I can go back to having just 1 or 2. And they go back and have 1 or 2 and soon realize that they can't have 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's classic, isn't it? And there's even a name for it, isn't there? Fading effect bias that William Porter talks about. Because our brain tends to remember the good times that we had when we were drinking. And maybe after 6 months, we start thinking about those a little bit. And then we think, oh, I've had a nice break, I'm fine now. But the harsh truth is that once we've crossed the line into dependence, we can't go back. We can't ever have just 1 or 2. I think that is such a sign when you start thinking like that, that there is more work to do on the mindset. Because if you're hankering after having just one, it means you've still got work to do. You haven't quite let it go. And you haven't quite accepted that not drinking means you gain so much more than you lose. And the more we can work on our mindset, the more we can settle into an alcohol-free lifestyle that we really enjoy. Because there's no point being sober and miserable. You talked about that white knuckling for 6 months. Who wants to live like that? We've got to live and enjoy our lives. You've got to enjoy your next 40 years, and I'm sure you will. So we talk a lot about connection, don't we? We say connection is the opposite of addiction. Why do you think it's so important in recovery?
So that you can know that you're not the only one. And it's not really a topic that you want to speak to necessarily with family and friends. You need to find the people that get you, that understand you, that are going through the same thing, and connect with those people. And you're not going to find that in your friend group, your family. You may find one or two that you can chat to, but to have a tribe where everyone's got something to give.
Yeah. No, it's hugely important, because my husband was on at me for 10 years, but he would never say, you must quit drinking. He'd always say, just cut down a bit. He'd say, when we go out tonight, Janet, why don't you just have 2 glasses of wine instead of the 2? And I would genuinely try, but by the time the second glass was down, you know the story, don't you? It's no good. The family often tell you to cut down. And then my drinking buddies, of course, said to me, don't be so ridiculous. You don't have a problem. You just drink like we do. Everybody drinks a bottle of wine a night. And then you kick the can down the road for another year, another 2 years. And the thing is, it does get worse. That's what alcohol dependence does. It gets worse and it gets worse, until all you want to do is stay home and drink. You don't even want to go out and see people, because you've created a relationship with the alcohol. Nothing used to make me happier than being at home with a movie and a bottle of coffee.
Yeah, it's the same. I had to stop socializing because it was safer to drink at home.
Yeah.
And I had no one judging me.
Even if you had a blackout, you're
and even if I had a blackout.
Yeah. It's crazy, because our life just gets smaller and smaller. We stop seeing people. We have no projects, because our project is to drink. Our lives just get smaller and smaller. And when you cross the line into serious alcoholism, alcohol doesn't even make you happy. You just have to drink to feel normal. And that's what those guys in the park have to do when they wake up on their bench in the morning, have a nip of whiskey just to feel normal, just to function. And who wants to be there? Have you got some tips? Let's think of some tips for people. Let's come up with some between us. If someone's listening to this and they think, oh yeah, maybe I'll join Tribe Sober, but I want to have a go on my own first. Give them a few tips to get them started.
Skip the trying to do it by yourself. Just take that out of the way. You're going to waste your time. So yes, find your tribe and think of getting sober as a project.
Yes.
Instead of planning your drinking, plan your not drinking. So what are you going to do in the evenings when it's 1 o'clock? When you go on holiday, what are your alternative drinks going to be? Going out in the evenings, where are you going to go? What are you going to drink? Plan all that.
Yeah.
So that when the time does come and that drink is in front of you, you've got an escape. That's important for the early days.
Yeah.
I went from needing to stop to wanting to stop.
Yeah, that's crucial. So what would you say to someone listening that's really struggling, but they just haven't reached out because it's just too difficult? It's easier to struggle along on your own in shame and silence. What would you say to them to encourage them to make that tiny step that you made, and it will change their lives?
Just be curious. have an open mind. And I think one of the things that you said to me before was try everything and look at your options.
And what would you say to someone who's had 84-day ones almost, and they just start to lose hope? Because I tried and failed for a whole decade, and I ended up feeling like such a failure and thinking, I have no willpower. I don't have any willpower, as if willpower is a personality trait, which it isn't. Willpower doesn't work. So what would you say to someone who's losing hope? They keep trying and failing and trying and failing. What would you say to encourage them? Because they might be thinking, but this is so hard. Even if I join a community, it's still going to be so hard and I'm not sure I can do it.
It will still be hard. Just keep trying. Someone in the group said to me once, don't try harder, try different.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me because I was putting so much pressure on myself to try harder and beating myself up for not getting it right, thinking, oh, I'm never going to get this right. And what is wrong with me? I need to try harder. Trying different gave it a softer approach and a more curious one where I was like, okay, how can I change my routine? How can I change what I drink? So that's when the curiosity came in. So yeah, be curious, try different, and don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's nice. And also being in a community, when you do fail, you get encouraged and people say, oh, that happened to me at that time. And now I'm 5 years sober. So just get back on the bus. When you hear stuff like that, you think, oh, I'll get there. And you're encouraged to try again.
Yeah, and definitely stay connected. It's always the quiet ones that leave the groups or they sit back and don't say anything. I find they struggle the most.
Definitely, yeah.
The ones that keep coming back every day saying, oh, I'm struggling, and they're the ones that finally get it right.
Yeah, we can always spot them, can't we, Mum, when we see somebody at Zoom Cafe every Saturday, and then I hear that they've been going in the week as well and they're on the groups. You just know that they're going to get it. And another sign that I always love to see that makes me realize that someone's on the right track is when they start giving advice to other people, because they start off completely overwhelmed thinking, oh, this is hopeless. And then you see them giving out really good advice to brand new people and you think, wow, not only has she got it, but she's telling others. So if someone's listening to this and they would like to talk to you about Tribe Sober and how they can join and how it all works, how can they best reach you?
Drop me an email at mon@tribesober.com.
Yeah.
That would probably be best. So we got our weekly Zoom meetings. If you'd like to come along and sit in for one of those meetings, get a feel for the tribe.
Exactly. People can come as a guest, can't they? And they
Yes.
can turn off their microphone, turn off their camera and just watch. And they can decide if we are their people or not. That's what I always say is my number one tip. If you want to get sober, find your people. And you can come and watch us and decide if we are your people or not. Most people that come as guests, they do join, don't they?
Yes.
Okay. Anything that we haven't talked about, Mon, that you'd like to mention?
No, not that you think of.
Okay. I shall wrap this up by saying well done for your 5 years. It's been such a pleasure to be with you on this journey. And I'm delighted that we're now colleagues and running Tribe Sober together.
Yes. Thank you for having me on as a guest.